In the second year after my death, I received an invitation from my wife. 2 years ago, she had framed me, claiming that I was a pervert who had pretended to be a lost uncle on a rainy night to sexually assault a minor. She took me to the crime scene and had me beaten. Now, 2 years later, she was hosting a lavish wedding. My mentally unstable daughter, clutching the invitation, went to the wedding only to be publicly humiliated. Where's your dad? Has he been hiding you all these years? Does he finally dare to let you out now? Thinking I was too ashamed to show my face, she tormented my daughter, leading to her hospitalization. By her hospital bedside, she was relentless. I'll give you one last chance. Either he comes forward and admits to his crimes, or his daughter, Nan, will experience the same things to atone for him. My daughter was triggered once again. Dead. Daddy's dead. He was beaten to death. The news of a lavish wedding between the ice-cold female CEO of Xinjiang and her first love had spread throughout the city. Today was the wedding day. Luxury cars lined the entrance. The banquet hall was packed with guests and media. The MC was going through the program, and it was time for the groom to put the ring on the bride. Suddenly, a 5-year-old girl entered, holding an invitation. She hesitantly looked at the bride and cried out, "Mommy!" Everyone was immediately drawn to her, confused. No one outside had ever heard of the ice-cold CEO having a daughter. The groom's face flashed with panic as he quickly took control of the situation. Where did this child come from? Security, get her out of here. The guests chimed in, yeah, the bride and groom are each other's first love. Is she mentally challenged? She's calling the wrong woman mommy. Security, throw her out. Soon, a burly security guard came and grabbed the child to throw her out. The child struggled, biting the guard on the arm. Ah, you little brat. You must have a death wish. He slapped the child, causing her cheek to swell. The child didn't cry. She just stared at the bride on the stage. I wanted to kick the guard and hold my daughter to comfort her, but I couldn't. I was just a wisp of soul lingering on earth. Wait. A familiar voice rang out as Chloe, wearing a wedding dress, walked toward the child. The security guard immediately let go. The child fell to the ground, still looking in her direction. I reached out to hug her, but my hand passed right through her, in vain. I turned around and Chloe was already standing in front of me. She looked noble and elegant in her high-end, floor-length wedding gown. When she looked at my daughter, her eyes were cold. My daughter got up and handed her the invitation. Invitation, Mommy. I came in Daddy's place. 2 years ago, my daughter had witnessed my death, causing her to suffer from neurological disorders. After 2 years of treatment, her condition had barely improved, and she was still prone to relapses when triggered. When she saw Chloe's name on the invitation at home, she insisted on coming. Chloe is Mommy's name. Daddy loves Mommy the most. I had raised Nan. Ever since she could remember, I had always emphasized that the person I loved most was Chloe. I taught Nan that we had to do everything we could to help her. It was out of habit that she had come. But I never imagined a 5-year-old would have the courage to come to such a grand occasion alone. Who is this child? And who is the daddy she keeps talking about? The guests began to whisper, wondering about her identity. Chloe, like a queen, coldly observed the helpless Nan. It was like she was a stranger. Don't call me that. I don't have a daughter like you. She sneered, her words merciless, like father, like son. I can't imagine what you've become after being raised by a pervert who sexually assaults minors all these years. Her words shocked everyone. Those who thought she was immoral for hiding the fact that she had a child now thought she had moral integrity. They felt it was right to sever ties with children and their immoral fathers. 2 years ago, Chloe's first love, Ethan, said I was a pervert who had lured his underage cousin into a derelict building on a rainy night to sexually assault her. She had people drag me to the crime scene and had me beaten, regardless of how I tried to explain myself. Later, she and Ethan were always seen at various events. Their relationship grew stronger, leading to discussions of marriage. I, the husband, was a mere decoration all along. Where is he? Chloe, holding the arm of a man in a white suit, said mockingly, I invited him to show him that he was nothing but a rat in the gutter, not worthy of me, forever condemned to watch me be happy from the shadows. Why didn't he come by himself? Nan shook her head, looking at Chloe hesitantly. Daddy can't come. He can't come. A flicker of disappointment flashed in Chloe's eyes before she smirked. I knew that she wanted me to kneel at her feet and beg her not to marry Ethan, but I didn't show up. He can't come. Or, Chloe dragged out her words, her mockery becoming more pronounced. Did he do something despicable and is too ashamed to show his face? Nan tilted her head, her large eyes filled with confusion. Mommy, what do you mean? Chloe coldly smiled and pushed Nan away, then turned to the confused crowd. 2 years ago, John pretended to be a lost uncle on a rainy night, luring Ethan's underage cousin to a derelict building where he sexually assaulted her. He's nothing but a pervert. That wasn't true. That night, it had been raining heavily, and I saw Susan alone and took her to the derelict building to take shelter from the rain. To keep her from being afraid, I told her jokes and waited until the rain stopped to take her to Ethan. That was all. But the next day, they ganged up on me, accusing me of assaulting Susan. Chloe was right. Like father, like son. Susan and Ethan were close, so they were naturally birds of a feather. I should have been more careful. He showed his true colors, so he's too ashamed to come, right? The crowd laughed, many echoing their outrage. Oh my God, attacking an underage girl? So disgusting. Someone like that has a wife and daughter? How could he face them? Someone like that deserves to be beaten to death. The harsh words kept coming. I was almost relieved that my daughter was young and didn't fully understand the malice in those words, saving her from being upset for my sake. But the moment I let out a breath, I saw my daughter's reddened eyes as she glared at those people, her teeth clenched, her eyes widened, and she said, grinding her teeth, beaten to death. Daddy's dead. The word beaten to death must have triggered her. Her pupils dilated. Her expression showed fear. Her breathing was heavy and rapid. She then hugged her arms in pain and fell to the ground. Seeing this, no one dared to approach. What's this kid talking about? Chloe looked slightly moved and knelt down, reaching out to Nan, wanting to find out what she was saying. The next second, she was pulled up by the man beside her. He was the groom, Chloe's first love. Don't mind her. What if that bastard uses her to hurt you? She was convinced, and her eyes immediately filled with indifference. She just stood there, watching her daughter in pain. Finally, my daughter let out a cry and passed out. The sudden scene made everyone panic. The people who had been the most vicious hid behind the others, afraid of getting into trouble. Everything was in chaos. Someone called 911 and an ambulance came quickly and took my daughter away. I hurried to follow, but my soul was bound, trapped in the wedding. Tears streaming down my face, I tried to go outside, but I could only watch my daughter become more distant. At this point, the MC tried to save the day. It was just a small interruption. Now please turn your attention back to the bride and groom. Now, the groom will continue to put the ring on the bride. Ethan took Chloe's hand, picked up the ring, and was about to place it when Ethan's mother stood up. She stared at Chloe. Wait, you have to give the Yi family an explanation about the child. We won't just pick up someone else's trash. The scene froze again. Mom, what are you doing? Ethan tried to stop her. His mother glared at him disappointedly. Son, you're handsome and rich. You could find any woman you want. Chloe's family background and looks are good, but she's worthless now that she has a child. Fine, have her give you an additional 20% of her company's shares, and I'll agree to the marriage. Ethan had thought his mother was ruining his plans, but after hearing that he could get an additional 20% of the shares, his eyes lit up. Chloe, look at my mom. Chloe nodded, unhesitating. Okay, Ethan, if we're married, we're one. What's mine is yours. Let's continue the wedding. No. His mother interrupted her. You must sign the contract before we continue the wedding. I think we should call it a day. A kid with mental health issues came to make trouble. That's bad luck. Ethan's mother announced domineeringly. The wedding will be postponed. Chloe's expression was as if she had eaten a pile of dog poop. My heart was a little happy. It really was true that everyone has someone who controls them. The guests were all stunned. They didn't know whether they should sit or leave. Ethan stepped in and said, "It's fine. Everyone should eat. We'll still pay for it. I hope everyone will forgive my rudeness. I'm going to the hospital to check on the child." Hearing that, the guests began to praise him. "Oh my God. CEO, he is so magnanimous and tolerant. He's not blaming the child for ruining the wedding. Children don't know any better. Someone must be using her." Ethan was hinting at something. I felt the same way. Yes, someone was definitely using her. "Ethan, Nan was corrupted by John. You don't need to go see her." Ethan cajoled her. "Oh, children are innocent. It's the same as Susan. She was assaulted by a pervert. Is it her fault?" Chloe thought he was right and nodded. "Then I'll go with you." The two of them changed and headed to the hospital. I followed closely, worried about Nan. Ethan went to find the attending physician, while Chloe, not wanting to listen, waited outside the ward. Nan was still unconscious. The doctor asked if she was a relative of the patient. She paused for a moment and shook her head. "No." The doctor looked helpless. Chloe's face showed disgust. "Can't you contact her family?" The doctor nodded. "That's right." The doctor continued, "I heard she's an orphan. Her father died 2 years ago. Only 5 years old. So pitiful." After the doctor left, Chloe looked towards the ward. Nan was wearing an oxygen mask. She was pale and small, lying on the hospital bed. The heart monitor showed everything was normal. She was out of danger. My worries finally subsided. Chloe then smirked, a determined smile on her face. "John, you can hide for a while, but you can't hide forever. I will make you pay for what you've done." "I have already paid for the fabricated crimes." I smiled bitterly. "Chloe, I didn't hide. I was right in front of you, but you couldn't see me. You'll never be able to see me again in this lifetime." Over the next few days, Chloe continued to keep a close eye on the hospital. The next day, her assistant told her that they had news from the hospital. She immediately looked up. A young man went to see the little girl's attending physician and then looked in the ward for a long time before leaving. Hearing this, Chloe's expression didn't change much, as if she expected it. She waved for the assistant to leave, then muttered to herself, "John, I knew you couldn't resist. After all, your daughter is your life. John, if you apologize, I will forgive you and reconcile with you. This is the last chance I'm giving you." 2 years ago, Ethan and his cousin had come to my door, accusing me of the crime. Chloe believed them immediately and had the security guards pin me down. "Chloe, you can't believe his lies, can you? He's slandering me." My cries only made Chloe more furious. She kicked me in the face. "Enough, John. Susan has told us exactly how you tricked her, where you did it, and how. Are you still trying to deny it? How could she convict me because of her first love's word alone? Chloe, we've been together for 10 years, and our child is 5 years old. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Do you think I'd do something so heinous? Why not? Just because Ethan came back and we became closer, you blame me for neglecting you and Nan. You were trying to get revenge. That's why you pretended to be a lost uncle in the rain and lured Ethan's underage cousin into the derelict building." Chloe looked at me coldly. Without waiting for me to explain further, she had her bodyguards tie me up at the crime scene and let them beat me. The iron rods caused sharp pain in my head, internal organs, and countless broken bones, causing my consciousness to fade. But as much as my body hurt, it was not as painful as what I felt in my heart. My fingers clawed bloody marks in the ground as I yelled towards my ex-wife. I really didn't. I managed to open my eyes and saw my ex-wife nestled in Ethan's arms, promising him gently, "Don't worry, I'll get justice for Susan." And I passed away, with their cold stares as witnesses. My body was left in the damp derelict building. Whenever I recalled that scene, the pain felt like it had been etched into the depths of my soul. I was now anticipating what Chloe's reaction would be when she found out that it had all been a lie woven by her perfect first love. Hearing that the young man had come to the hospital again, Chloe had someone stop him and hurried to the hospital herself. After seeing the man's face, Chloe's expression changed dramatically. Sean, how can it be you? Sean was my older brother. He had been taking care of Nan for the past 2 years. He had been on a business trip the past few days and left Nan with a neighbor, which was how she had managed to run off to the wedding. You still have the nerve to ask me? Chloe, Nan is John's only daughter. Do you have to kill her to be happy? My brother glared at Chloe. Nan is also your daughter. Have you fulfilled your responsibilities as a mother in the past 2 years? Do you know that she has mental health issues? That she cannot be triggered? Chloe ignored him, crossing her arms as she looked around the room, looking for something. Finally, she said coldly, John's character is terrible. He sexually assaulted a minor. Does the offspring of such a man deserve my care? You're his family. You Sioux people are all the same, disgusting to the core. You'd better hope I don't find out you were in cahoots with John, otherwise, I will have you locked up. You're unreasonable, my brother said, his face turning red with anger. Chloe then turned and ordered her assistant to have the hospital stop treating Nan. The oxygen mask was removed. The heart monitor immediately started beeping. I screamed wildly, wanting to stop Chloe, but she couldn't hear me. My brother roared, Chloe, is killing one not enough? Do you want to kill another? Nan was John's lifeline. How can you do this to him? Chloe dismissed him. Does he, a man like that, deserve to be treated right? Stop yelling. You should know that the Jiang family is the biggest shareholder of this hospital. Fine, you're right, my brother said, clenching his teeth. Then we'll transfer her to another hospital. Okay. Can't you see the reality? Unless I agree, you're not going anywhere. Chloe's casual words caused my brother to almost break down. Clenching his teeth, he asked, What do you want? Simple. Have John come see me. My brother refused without hesitation. He can't come. Chloe's eyes narrowed. Then let his only daughter die. No, Chloe, you can't do that to John. Nan is also your daughter. He tried to stop Chloe, but her bodyguards grabbed his wrists and broke them. My brother screamed. My heart was on fire. I was kneeling before Chloe. Chloe's eyes flickered. Since she's my daughter, then I have the right to decide her life or death. Chloe stood up straight and stared at Nan on the hospital bed as if in thought. After a few moments, she said, So, John is still refusing to confess? Fine. The daughter will pay for the father's sin. I want you to take Nan to the derelict building and have her experience what Susan experienced. Hearing that, my brother crawled and hugged Chloe's leg, begging. No, Chloe, I'm begging you. Do whatever you want of me, but don't hurt Nan. No, Chloe, you are a monster. I roared, feeling like my soul was about to be torn apart. My hatred swelled inside me, but I could do nothing. Chloe kicked my brother away, her tone icy. When John assaulted Ethan's cousin, he didn't think that she was someone else's daughter. Now that it's his daughter's turn, you can't accept it? I'll give you one last chance. Either you contact John and have him admit his crimes, or you let Nan take his place. My brother looked up, his eyes full of disappointment and grief. He shook his head, tears streaming down his face. What should I choose? My brother said with difficulty. John died 2 years ago. He was beaten to death by you guys at the derelict building. Chloe was momentarily stunned. The next second, she regained her cold composure. Then it's perfect. Let his daughter go and keep him company. My brother never imagined that Chloe would react this way. He stared with wide eyes in disbelief and asked, Chloe, are you even human? I told you. John is dead. You guys beat him to death. Enough. Chloe interrupted him. Your family is so cunning. You can even pull off a fake death to escape responsibility. She did not believe me, no matter when or where. When I was alive, she didn't believe that I hadn't committed the crime. Now that I was dead, she didn't believe that I was dead. Chloe, if you ever found out the truth, would you ever regret what you had done? Unable to reason with her, my brother felt defeated and closed his eyes. That only made Chloe even angrier. Her face showed suppressed rage as her hatred for me reached its peak. I should have known. He was even denying that he assaulted Ethan's cousin. So how could he ever come out now to confess, even for Nan? She chuckled softly, with deep disappointment in her eyes, as if she had completely given up on me. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, and she gave my brother an evil smile. Sean, you guys are brothers. Why don't you atone for his sins? My brother opened his eyes and met her gaze. His eyes were completely calm. Okay. Chloe grabbed Sean by the collar, her voice low but powerful. I will take you to the derelict building and have my bodyguards beat you, just like they did to John 2 years ago. 2 years ago, when he was beaten, he kept crying and begging, saying he was innocent, asking me to tell the bodyguards to stop. But I didn't. I only told them to stop when his eyes closed. Sean, my bodyguards have improved their skills in the past 2 years. They might accidentally kill you. Her threat was clear, but my brother remained calm and just looked at her. Not seeing fear in his eyes, Chloe threw him off, displeased. She was just about to order the bodyguards to take him away when the heart monitor started beeping wildly. They looked up to see Nan, who had woken up at some unknown time, staring at Chloe with wide, frightened eyes. Daddy, beaten to death? Ah! She screamed, and my brother went over to comfort her, but it was to no avail. The sudden scene stunned Chloe. She looked on, at a loss. Nan, it's okay. Don't be afraid. Uncle's here. Nan, please don't scare your uncle. My brother pressed the emergency button. The doctor rushed in and gave Nan a sedative. The situation finally calmed down. I wanted so badly to hug my daughter, but I couldn't. Chloe did not stay much longer and returned to the office with a cold expression. She went to work, attended meetings, and signed contracts as if nothing had happened. She stopped going to the hospital and stopped asking for any news about me. I heard from her assistant that my brother had taken Nan home. Great. Nan was okay. I was happy, but Chloe was angry. She even scolded her assistant, telling him not to bring such useless news back every day. There was another knock at the door. It was Ethan. Chloe, what's wrong? Why are you so angry? Chloe calmed herself. It's nothing. Why did you come? To discuss the wedding. Ethan looked at her and continued cautiously. You left me at the wedding. My relatives have been gossiping about me. My parents want to complete the wedding soon, for both our sakes. Chloe nodded perfunctorily. I understand. Was it my imagination? She actually seemed unwilling. But getting married to Ethan was her dream, wasn't it? I suddenly remembered that back then, when I had planned to have a big wedding for her, she said she didn't want it to be so high profile. So we had just registered the marriage and had a hidden marriage. Seeing her grand wedding with Ethan, I thought she would be happy. On the eve of the wedding, Chloe was agitated and would get angry over nothing. That day, she rejected all her work and drove out. When I saw that she was heading for the police station, my heart alarmed. She handed a photo of me and a newspaper to the police. I'm here to report this case. I demand you arrest this pervert who sexually assaults minors. The police officer took the newspaper and looked at her with surprise. The derelict building incident 2 years ago? We've already refuted that. It's fake news. The determined expression on Chloe's face froze, unable to believe what she had just heard. Officer, what are you saying? You can't just say it's fake news because it's too difficult. I've seen the victim. That's the culprit in the photo. How could it be fake news? The officer frowned, looking at her as if she was an idiot. Why were there still people who didn't believe the police? Madam, do you not watch the news? When those rumors spread 2 years ago, we investigated and posted notices and issued statements on our accounts immediately. After hearing these words, Chloe looked at the photo of me in a daze, feeling powerless as if she had just been struck by a club. But that's not right. The victim told me it happened, that this was the man who did it. The vast difference between her imagination and reality shattered Chloe's beliefs. Like a drowning person, she tried to grasp anything the police officer said to help her stay afloat. What victim? These days, people would do anything for views. The officer waved his hand impatiently. If you have nothing else, go back. We're busy here. Chloe stood there in a daze, muttering to herself. How could it be then 2 years ago? After confirming again and again, and with several other police officers explaining the situation, Chloe finally believed it. She had finally discovered that her prejudice against me in the past 2 years was nothing more than the result of believing what other people had said. She had chosen her first love over the truth without hesitation. How could it be impossible? She stumbled out of the police station and drove. She arrived at the scene of the crime, the derelict building. Chloe's eyes were filled with despair as she dragged her stiff legs to the place where I had died. She dropped to her knees, her head lowered, and cried, "I'm sorry, John. It was all my fault." On her way, she had had someone investigate my case and finally believe the truth of my death. She cried uncontrollably until she was completely exhausted. She was just lying on the ground, her eyes fixed forward. I was afraid that she would do something rash. I wanted to call her, but she could not hear me. Suddenly, there was thunder and lightning, and then came a downpour. But Chloe still didn't move. She just lay there. After a long time, her phone rang with Ethan's ringtone. Her unfocused pupils finally narrowed. "Ethan, let's change the wedding location. I'll take full responsibility for it." Ethan thought she wanted an even more high-end venue and happily agreed. Chloe selected the derelict building as the wedding venue. She sent the location to Ethan on the day of the wedding. Ethan panicked. He was afraid that the truth would come out. "Chloe, why?" She gave him a cold smile. "Because it's special." Chloe stroked Ethan's chest. "Okay, I have it all figured out. Go out and entertain our guests." The derelict building was large but not decorated. Although the guests were complaining, they did not dare say anything due to Chloe's status. Ethan felt that something was wrong, but he was unable to resist. In the past few years, he had racked up huge gambling debts, so he needed to solidify his relationship with Chloe and drag her down with him. The guests were all in their seats. The MC was going through the program, and it was soon time for them to exchange rings again. This time, Chloe interrupted the MC. "Before that, I would like to give you a gift." Chloe smiled as she gestured. The makeshift speakers came to life. "Uncle John did not bully me. My cousin forced me to say those things. If I didn't, he'd beat me. Uncle John was a good man. That day, he gave me his umbrella when he saw that I was caught in the rain." It was Ethan's cousin's voice. Ethan was terrified. "Chloe, what are you doing? Don't be in a hurry. It's just starting." The recording continued. Later, "Just beat that John to death. The arrogant jerk. How dare he touch my woman? If Chloe asks, just say he ran away. She won't ask any questions." Ethan had ordered his bodyguards to use as much force as possible when they had beaten me. Afterwards, Chloe had realized that something was not right with me and had wanted to send me to the hospital, but Ethan had stopped her. All of it had been part of his plot, all for the sake of his rise to power. Ethan had never imagined that he would get his wish after 2 years, just to have Chloe realize the truth. Ethan pretended to be confused. "Chloe, what is this?" Tears streamed down Chloe's face. Her eyes were red as she glared at him. "You manipulated me and killed John. You slandered him and had him beaten to death. You're so evil." "Chloe, John slandered me. Even now, when I was dead, he still tried to frame me. The child at the wedding was a plant he sent to ruin the wedding. He didn't want us to be happy." Chloe's chest heaved. She gestured, and 2 bodyguards dragged Ethan to the place where I had died. Ethan was more aware than anyone of what that place represented. His eyes widened in terror as he tried to stand up, but the bodyguards had pinned him down. Chloe laughed coldly as she picked up an iron rod and swung it at Ethan's head. "This hit is for John." Thump. She hit his chest again. "This hit is for Nan. The third hit shattered Ethan's kneecap. "And this one is for myself?" Her hands trembled, and then her entire body began to tremble. Chloe shivered uncontrollably as tears streamed down her face. "What are you doing? Do it now. Do to him what you did to John. I'll take responsibility if anyone dies." Chloe had completely lost her mind. She did such a crazy thing in front of so many guests. Ethan had been screaming a few moments ago, but he could only stare at Chloe now. She looked down at him, unfeeling and aloof. Perhaps fearing that she would kill someone, someone had called the police. But what people didn't expect was that Chloe was so daring that she had her bodyguards block the police. Only after Ethan had stopped moving and was definitely dead did she allow the police to come in. As a police officer came toward her with his gun, she suddenly lunged, trying to grab the gun, but her wrist was seized and twisted. The scene was a bloody mess. As Chloe was being taken to the police car, she raised her head and looked towards the place where Ethan had been lying. And I was standing there, watching the pool of blood. I wanted so badly to save myself from the past, but I couldn't. After Chloe was taken into custody, Ethan's evidence of crimes was posted online, which trended for more than half a month. She had been planning it all along. Ethan was dead, and she couldn't get out. Handing over the evidence to the police would not help her either. So, Chloe chose to get revenge in her own way. Chloe was sentenced to death, but she was happy. The night before her execution, she sat in a corner, happily laughing. "John, it's so good. I'll finally see you." The next second, she started crying sadly. "But you definitely don't want to see me right now, right? I did so many wrong things. I deserve to die. I even wanted to make Nan go through that. I'm such a monster." My soul was trapped by her side. All I could do was listen to her. Her end could be considered as paying for what she had done. On the day she was executed, the moment Chloe died, the power that had bound me disappeared. I was just about to leave when I heard a familiar female voice behind me. "John." I turned around and saw her tear-filled face.